Philosophers talk to our times, both towards an ethnography of a self-poisoning mind. I reckon that the cockroaches, for millions of years, when they've finally reached consciousness, and are writing the history of how humans destroyed themselves, or singing it, clicking it in their strange, weird language, in the world that is to come. Well, if they know their history detailed enough, put down yesterday as one of the most remarkable days in how humans destroyed themselves. Remarkable not because anything big happened, and yet everything big happened. Here we are, in the wettest corner of France, or one of them, and it's dry and hot. There's day upon day above 36, 37, pounds the landscape and destroys the crops. As forests roast and twist and burn. As hay is fed to animals in the wrong season. As grass withers and dies. And how did France celebrate yesterday? The Environment Minister resigned. Yep, you got it. The person responsible resigned. And in Britain, the Minister for Energy, the one minister who takes global warming seriously and had actually committed Britain to a genuine policy that would actually see it through and also survive the oil crisis, was moved. So how did Western Europe celebrate the triumphant beginning of its Armageddon? That's right. It got rid of the people whose job it was to stop it. Oh, go, humanity, go. Meanwhile, over the other side of the Atlantic, the thing that passes as government is howling at Canada for fires that its own policies towards global warming actively promote. Policies that it hopes that by just blinding itself, by refusing to notice, by refusing to collect the figures that allow you to understand what is happening to our planet, somehow the problem will go away. Ostriches will sue when they hear about it. And in all of this, even as, and this is the other coup de grace for me, the protest movement from 6-7 years ago, when we were going to shake the towers of kings and be so rebellious it wasn't true, and make policy changes, that movement is coughing up blood and won't last a year. And so we're caught in this very dark place where, to be honest with you, we all know that something has to change and yet are unable to change it. Now, how do you want to understand that? I suppose one could understand it all Freudian, and it really does work. I have done posts on that, about how you can understand this as an act of Freudian repression, that the fear is too great. And when fear is too great, humans run, or more likely, in the best Humean or Freudian sense, they look for other things to blame, because they cannot look at the fear directly in its face. They repress it and look elsewhere. And yeah, that kind of works. But I don't think you even need to get that complicated to understand what is happening. How this idea is poisoning our mind, twisting us. I think I might go also to gay science, you see. In gay science, Nietzsche gives the hilarious story of the death of God. The Nietzschean God died, of course, of pity. Once a self-confident God striding across the pantheon, causing thunder, flood and disaster, it became at last the God of pity, who claimed to be the only God and caused all the other gods to die of laughing, and then died for pity for the humanity that he had created. A sad old biddy of a God. But when God was dead, Nietzsche said, they showed his shadow, as the Buddhists showed the shadow of the Buddha, a horrible and macabre thing that bore witness to an absence, to what cannot any more be. a thing to worship, a thing to sacrifice to. For the shadow of a god is far more terrifying than a god ever will be, because you sacrifice to nothing, and yet endlessly sacrifice in the promise that somehow, by rendering yourself as nothing, you bring back the god who is not there. And isn't that what we're doing? I mean, really, realistically, isn't that exactly where we are? Let me explain. Perhaps it isn't clear enough. One of the problem, I suppose, with changing the world so that we could actually make it so that we could survive past the end of this century in our current form, is that we would have to change the... There's nothing about technology. It really is nothing about technology. We could do it tomorrow. That's the annoying bit. It's not even that we have to change capitalism. I've talked about this before. We could actually do it within the capitalist system. In many ways, solar power, and to a lesser extent wind, but really solar, is now by far the cheapest source of energy. So all you have to do is let it take over. Okay? And it would just simply happen. So if capitalism actually worked, if we lived in a capitalist society, we would actually survive the coming global apocalypse. But we don't, and we're not going to. I find it the bizarrest irony there. But let me take you back to Nietzsche. The point is, though, that the capitalism that has grown up since the Second World War and the liberalism that took over, the kind of liberalism, it's the bit that does work as liberalism. Liberalism is Keynes. So Keynes believes in organising your economy. Now, when that was pushed aside at the end of the oil crisis, what was replaced wasn't really the genuine free market. It was really much closer to a crony market. So you had the market of very large corporations. Oh yeah, you talk the language of the small guy, and because of technology, small guys could bubble up. But small guys worked because they played the game of corporations. They thought as corporate individuals. They turned themselves at last into big, big companies. And everything was always then about the movement to the big company. And being the big company, the franchise, the thing with many branches, was the image for success. That was where everything was geared up to. That was where the taxes were geared up to. That's where influence was geared up to. That was what you aimed to be. You didn't aim to be then a little Adam Smith producer, producing your little perfect pins, because you knew if you did that, the big boys would destroy you. And the system was designed so that the big boys could always destroy you. It's the bits, you see, of liberalism that neoliberalism certainly inherited. Liberalism quite likes large organisations because states manage large organisations, because that's the way you do large-scale planning. And the thing that gets called neoliberalism rather likes large-scale financial organisations, because they're the things you can have deals with. They're the things you can cook up the GDP with. They're the things that allow you to manage the state. And actually what you do is you manage the entire state so that there are these very large, very powerful companies. And then you govern through the companies, or govern with the companies, really. It creates quite a stable political system, as long as you ignore the people. As long as you con them, that they're all part of the system. And of course, what is animating this entire system is a certain sort of petrol economy, a certain sort of power, where the state is linked to power companies, which were privatised, but those privatisations are the brothers of the people, the MPs in charge, or whatever. They're the same caste. Own the managing directors, so that they're firmly owned by the certain group of the ruling classes. All that jazz, okay? The old day when you might have in a nationalised system, you could actually hire a worker to be in charge because you wanted somebody who actually understood what they were doing. Oh, as long as it's gone, it's all become financial organisations. All that world then depended on various props, I suppose I would say, various important points to make it work, including, I think it depended on power on centralized power production, because that was one of the things the state did and to managed. That's why it doesn't like solar very much, because solar is decentralized power, and that undermines the way the state had been wielding its power for a very long time. Likewise, it understood the state in terms of large-scale organizations that were companies. And a lot of kind of the new small technologies take people off grid. They give people a slightly different take on what power looks like and what the state looks like. More than that, they break the power of the petrodollar. So they break the power by the game, the rules that have dominated the West since when? 1974? Since the collapse of the gold currency and it's replaced with the oil currency. Now, Trump, curse him, is of course doing his best to destroy America. And that will actually change all of this. But let's just assume that America doesn't destroy itself, which seems to me to be unlikely. Nihilism has a horrible habit of bleeding. And bleeding bleeding in this way that it destroys the very power system that he thinks that he's wielding. But that's another matter. The point is that we now all know the petrodollar, the world of petrol, the world of big carbon is dead. As true as we know that God is dead. It no longer works. It no longer functions. It no longer will give us a world of safety. It will no longer give us a world of wealth. And yet to change it is a terribly dangerous thing for those people who are in power at the moment. To change it is like asking priests to stop worshipping a God they no longer believe in, but to whom they've committed all their life and all their power. They're not going to do it. Worse than that, their very lack of belief in God at all creates a dreadful nihilism of the soul and spirit. They are dependent upon worshipping something that is not and they know is not. And yet if they stop worshipping it, all their ability to have power, all the delight of their authority collapses. And that is, of course, exactly where we are. If we admit that the petro-capitalism of in which most of us were raised is dead, and if it isn't dead, it will kill us all. But really, it is dead. It's been killed by solar power, which is now more powerful anyway, and it's killing the planet. It no longer is giving rhyme and reason to the world. It no longer has that thing that it always offered, that promise of unlimited growth. All of that is gone and moved on. Then those organs of state, is that the right word? Then the way we would have to rethink the state immediately and completely. Oh, it's doable. But historically, humans haven't done it really until there has been a crisis. The neoliberalism, which was the easiest coup in the world because it allowed the rich to take power, took an oil crisis in 1970, 2, 3, 4? Likewise, Keynesianism, which was a genuine attempt to address poverty and make the poor wealthier and tax the rich to do it, took the Second World War. Now, this will take what? Well, it might take its own nihilism. I mean, that's that Trump thing. Trump is perfectly capable of destroying America. And if you destroy America, you might destroy the petrodollar. And if you destroy the petrodollar, you might give the world breathing space to actually survive. But there's all kinds of might have beens there because he's just a nihilist. He's a product of nihilism. He doesn't believe in what he says he believes in order to have power. He's like a pope who no longer believes in God. And that's very dangerous because he might destroy the organization he's leading, or he might just destroy the world, or he might destroy anything. You can't guarantee it. But until we accept that we are worshipping the shadow of a world that has been, we're going to carry on doing this. Europe is going to carry on burning, and we're going to carry on sacking the environment ministers who are actually doing any good and replacing them with the shills of the shadow worshippers, the oil industries, who will say, no, nothing's happening. Nothing to see here, it's just arson. Yeah, right, but there's always arsonists. It doesn't mean the whole forests burn. That's the global warming, mate. Quick caveat on global warming. It's badly named. It should be called global chaos. You wait, next year it will be freezing. And the oil industry lobbies will all be saying, well, we told you it couldn't be global warming because now it's cold. But the point is that global warming simply, it's warming in the same way that the universe has entropy increasing and heat always increases. It's chaos that is increasing. And as chaos increases, humanity's ability to manage it decreases. And if we ignore that and carry on worshipping the petrodollar that once was, oh my God, we're screwed.